We're going to need you to take out a pen and paper today because we're going to be talking about Homestuck. Yes, the thing that nobody's ever talked about ever. I did not grow up reading Homestuck. I am only very recently getting into Homestuck. I know for a lot of people it was a defining fandom for them growing up. And one of those people includes my husband. And for the majority of our relationship, I have bullied him about it. And so I figured it was time to check it out. What is Homestuck?
I've thought a lot about that for a long time. It's a shitpost epic.
Multimedia webcomic, or as Andrew Hussie describes it,
it's a shitpost epic.
Which I think is a very good answer. It's kind of a webcomic that also used to use flash animation, so it kind of played like a game at times. There's music, there's videos, there's now books. On the infamous day of April 13th, 2009.
That's the day I started Homestuck.
Andrew Hussie posted the very first page of Homestuck, which now ranges up to more than 8,000 pages. Though, to be clear, when I'm talking a page, we're not saying like in a book, we're saying like the next time you have to click a prompt. So either that's just a picture with maybe like a sentence, or it's a whole chat log you get to read.
What is Homestuck even about? That's also a crazy question. It's about some kids who play a game. There's lots of problems, a lot of feelings, a lot of crying, a lot of people die, but then they come back to life, and you die again, and then eventually it ends.
Homestuck is infamous for being very hard to explain or summarize or recap, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. Hit it. In the beginning! Act 1.
We are introduced to John. He likes pranks and bad movies raised by his father. We start on his birthday. Reader is introduced to the game mechanics such as capture logging. John wants to play Spurb with his friend Rose. There are two versions of the game. There's the server version and the client version. The server version controls client environment. When you start the game, it starts a meteor coming to your house. Or maybe not. We don't know. But anyway, all that matters is there's a meteor coming over to John's house now. Rose and John have to create several things to get John out of this dimension to escape the meteor. We're also introduced to Dave and Jade. Dave is a cool guy, into making comics and music, and is raised by his older brother. Jade is into gardening and sleeping. Not really, but kinda. Was raised by her grandfather, who is now deceased, and lives with her pet, Beck, who is important. Her friends think that she knows more than she is letting on. Rose is super smart and into knitting and the occult. While Rose is setting up her server game and helping save John, she outruns her own crises where she discovers a secret lab under the tomb of her dead cat Jaspers, who is also important. Rose is able to create an apple for John, an item that he can use to escape and go to a different place. End of Act 1. Alright, I'm gonna put Act 2 and 3 into one little bit, so here we go. John is sent to a place called the Void. I don't know why, there's probably a reason I don't remember, but get over it. John realizes his father is missing. He's taken by the imps, which are the enemy of the Void. During all of the saving shenanigans, Rose and John had created something called a kernel sprite. A kernel sprite is a customizable guide in the game. You have to customize it with 2 objects or people, and each thing you use affects the nature of the enemies in the game, and ultimately the powers given to the final boss. Without knowing these mechanics prior, John creates his kernel sprite with a clown of his dad's and his grandmother's ashes, creating Nanosprite. Sprites are able to assist as guides by having cryptic knowledge of the game given to them in riddles. In conjunction, John is also able to vicariously get to know his deceased grandmother through the sprite, while also learning information, like having to get up to the gate above the void to get out and find his father. We also learn from Nanosprite that the Earth is gone and there are other worlds beyond this void, most notably Skya, which she describes as a dormant crucible of unlimited creative potential. In order to get to Skya, there are 7 gates. Meanwhile, in order to save Rose from her doom, someone needs to use a server to join her client to get her out. This is up to Dave, as John lost his server disk and needs to get it. Dave needs to get it from his older brother through a battle on the rooftop. Meanwhile, we start to learn that Jade lives 2 separate lives here in this dimension in one of the dream world called Prospit. What is Prospit? Prospit is a bright planet with a moon attached by a chain, and Dirk is a dark planet that also has a moon attached by a chain. They are ruled by the Black King and Queen and the White King and Queen. On Prospit, Dream Jade has been able to see prophecies in the future through messages in the cloud shown from Skya. Meanwhile, we meet Jack Noir. Jack works with the Black Queen, who insists everyone wears jester costumes, and yes, this is fucking important. Jack is in charge of the guards who are keeping John's dad prisoner. John's dad, in self-defense, burns part of the uniform, and out of gratitude, Jack lets him free. Meanwhile, Dave finally gets his beta copy of Spurb and is ready to help Rose. End of Acts 2 and 3. Then we have an intermission that I did not read. Fake fan. Sorry. Be ashamed. I know. Then we go into Act 4. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember how John went from the void into his gate into the medium, but he did somehow. Oh, what is a medium, you might ask? I will tell you. The medium is an individualized planet for each player that reflects their qualities and roles. John's looks like this, Rose's looks like this, Dave's looks like this, and we're not going to look at Jade's yet because that's a spoiler. Anyway, Dave saves Rose and helps her get to her medium. We learn about Jade's own timey-wimey escapades. She installs her beta and the server player for Dave. John and Rose get familiar with their mediums. This is the act where we're introduced to the trolls. As of right now, they are unknown players who claim to be part of an alien race, who has also played their own version of Spurb, and they pester the kids seemingly out of spite. They don't get along. They've been blocking trolls for years prior to playing the game, so their adversarial relationship has been quite extensive. John is advised by one of these trolls on how to make a rocket pack so that he can get to the second gate leading to his demise. John's life is ultimately saved by a future version of Dave, who came back from the future to stop John from going through the gate, so now John is alive again. This is where we learn Dave learns to manipulate time. Also turns out instead of making the Colonel Sprite into Cal, his brother's creepy puppet, future Dave decides to become a sprite himself, becoming Dave Sprite. Now there are 2 Daves. Yay! Dave Sprite reprimands the troll who killed John, saying he saved John's life. The troll explains that the trolls all have the timelines of the 4 kids, and that they could see that John did not end up dying, so no matter what she did, she knew John would be okay. We then come to the creation of our villain, Jack Noir. Black Queen insists that Jack wears the uniform he hates. In protest, he kills the queen and takes her ring. This ring has the effects of all the sprites the kids have made: Nana Sprite, Dave Sprite, and Rose's Sprite, which is a mix of an Eltress Princess doll and her deceased cat Jasper's, while Jade's is still yet to create her Colonel Sprite. More on that later. However, this is still plenty enough power for Jack to go on a killing spree. Meanwhile, John is able to successfully get through the second gate, leading him to Rose's medium where Rose is sleeping. Rose and Dave realize their dream selves live on Dirk, the dark planet. While Rose is asleep, John explores Rose's medium where he finds a laboratory that belongs to Rose's mother. In this lab, long fucking story short, John ends up creating his own grandmother, Rose's mother, Jade's grandfather, and Dave's brother out of ectobiology. He then realizes he can make him and his friends as babies and realizes he is responsible for all their creations. Meanwhile, Dream Jade is on Dirk, making sure she is able to secure the White Queen's ring safely. This ring would be helpful if its powers worked on humans like it did Jack Noir, but it doesn't. A whole convoluted battle ensues, and essentially Dream Jade dies as she has been trying to wake up John, and as she does, she gives the ring to him in the process. End of Act 4.
Hey, Derek.
What?
You know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's troll time. It's motherfucking troll time.
Motherfucking troll time.
June 12th, 2010 was when the Hivebent arc started, and for those of you who have never read Homestuck, that was when the trolls were introduced. Time to learn about trolls! Take notes,
Motherfuckers. There are 12 trolls, each corresponding with the zodiac signs, and each sign corresponds with blood color. In the past, these blood colors were part of a caste system, red being mutant blood, rust being the bottom rung, and purple blood being royalty. You've got Karkat, who has red blood, and he has cancer. He is loud and obnoxious, yet everyone likes him. He's funny, and he insists on being the leader. Aradia has rust blood, she's an Aries, she's dead, explores ruins. Her friends find her boring, and she makes prophecies. Tavros has orange blood, and he is a Taurus. He's handicapped, can control animals with his brain, and he's insecure as fuck. Sollux has yellow blood, Gemini, good with coding, also has 2 laser eyes. Nepeta, green blood, Leo, she's a cat girl, she hunts shit, she's really cute. Kanaya has mint blood, she's a Virgo, she's smart, and she likes Rose. Terezi, teal blood, is a Libra. Represent. Trying to make peace sign while holding the mic. But then I did a middle finger, and now I'm doing this. She's into roleplay in the judicial system, and she's blind. She sees through taste and smell. Vriska, blue blood, Scorpio. She's a fucking bitch. Has a special eye with 8 pupils. Can control people with her mind. Aquarius, Indigo, Sagittarius, is also a bitch. Gets off on the caste system, and is super strong. Gamzee, Violet, Capricorn. He's a juggalo. He's a stoner, and he worships clown religion. Eridan, Violet, Aquarius, pompous ass bitch. Lives under the water, thinks he's better than everyone else. Pfeffery, has fuchsia blood. Pisces, also lives underwater, is pretty, not important. Trolls are raised by something called a lucis. It's like a parent, except they feed it and the lucis protects them. It's a weird relationship, don't think about it too much. Time to learn about troll drama. Karkat and Gamzee are best friends. Aradia was killed by Vriska by being mind-controlled by her then-boyfriend Sollux. Fucked up, get used to it. Aradia can see predictions. Tavros got handicapped because Vriska mind-controlled him to jump off a cliff while they were playing a roleplay game. Fucked up, told you, get used to it. Sollux, also good friends with Karkat. Nepta, good friends with Aquarius, also has a shipping wall, has a crush on Karkat. Kanaya is the only one of her friends who can go outside in the sun because of her blood. Terezi has a crush on Karkat. Also went blind because of, you guessed it, Vriska. Long story, but believe me, it's fucked up. Vriska is fucked up. She embraces the trolls' cultural norms and roles of having to be ruthless enough to kill and hurt people. Still a bitch. May have a thing for Tavros. Aquarius gets off on the caste system, also sweats too much. Gamzee really likes killer clowns, also may have a thing for Tavros. Eridan is dating Pfeffery due to their closeness in bloodline. Pfeffery breaks up with Eridan. Alright, we can finally get to their session of Spurb, which is called S-Scrub, or Scrub, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. When they play S-Scrub, they make their dead Luci into their Colonel Sprites and get to actually form relationships with them that way. They go through the game, do their thing, they have their own Durson Prospect, the Black Queen, in their session, doesn't want to wear their Ring of Power because someone fuses their Colonel Sprite with a frog. Yes, Homestuck is a comedy. They get to the end of the game, and right before they win, an event called the Scratch happens. The Scratch is caused by the humans in their game, the Jack Noir of their game. This releases a demon as well as banishes the trolls to some place called the Void, which is now where they currently reside and hide from the demon hunting them down. This is why the trolls are spiteful of the humans. Their game sessions created the humans universe, which created Jack Noir, and they blame the human players for it. End of Act 5, Act 1. Act 5, Act 2. John returns to his medium, becoming Jade's server player. Meanwhile, we get caught up as to how the trolls' relationships with the humans have evolved as they have watched the kids grow up on their timeline. Rose, having created magic wands, announces that she deduced the team will not be able to win the game due to the trolls' predictions, so her new tactic is to start learning more about its structure. She is investigating specifically the Green Sun, which is what lends Beck his powers. More on that later. Jade gets into the medium. Dave's older brother fights Jack Noir with Dave Sprite and dies. John discovers he can control wind. We find out when someone dies, they can enter something called a dream bubble. It's made of a person's memories, and other dead people can visit them too. Since Dream Jade is now dead, she can do this. Eridan wants to wield power like Rose, so Kanaya makes him wands. While taking a nap on a quest bed, if killed, you are ascended to God tier. Funnily enough, Jack Noir kills John while he's on his quest bed, and he ascends to God tier. Meanwhile, Vriska admits that she's the one who helped make Jack Noir so that she becomes the hero that defeats him.
So
there was a point in time in which she got fucked up. It happened because Aradia bot exploded. Yes. And because of that, Tavros found her like that. And Tavros was going to breathe life back into her, and she was like, no, stop. Oh, right. And I thought it was because he tried to kill her. So I misunderstood that. No, so what happened with that is it flashed back to that to show how she achieved godhood. It later shows them two fighting. Yeah. And it's essentially just him, like, running up to her grabbing the lance out of his hand, turning it around and stabbing him through the chest, and then throwing him off the side into the void. That's right, and then Terezi finds him. But we're not there yet. Yeah. Jade creates a pair of glasses that she can use to see anywhere as she can manipulate space. She then creates a kernel sprite from her dog, Beck, and her dead dream self, creating Jade Sprite. She suggests since Jade can control the green sun powers through Beck's ability, she could try to stop Jack Noir. Jade Sprite is too scared to do this and refuses. Kanaya then teaches Jade how to breed frogs, telling her that the one ultimate frog will become the new universe, as the humans' universe was made through the Trolls game. Eridan insists that they are doomed, and that they must surrender to Jack Noir. He tries to take his ex-girlfriend with him, but when she doesn't come and doesn't want to, Sollux steps up to fight him, and Eridan attempts to kill him. He then kills Pfeffery and Kanaya. Karkat, having witnessed all of it, suddenly gets threatening messages from his best friend Gamzee. Dave had sent Gamzee a video of Insane Clown Posse and had gone mad with rage, now going on a killing spree that his religion has been upheaved by witnessing the video. Out of fear of everyone's safety, Karkat asks Equius to use his strength to confront Gamzee, who also kills him. Terezi starts her own investigation, having found Tavros, who is now dead, who was killed by Vriska. She begins assuming Vriska is responsible for all of the killings of the dead bodies she found. Meanwhile, Vriska confides in John about her culture's normalizing and encouragement of murdering and killing others. While she does this, she also explains to John that every troll has an ancestor and that she looks up to hers named Mindfang. We also learn that Terezi's ancestor was a judge/executioner, hence her emphasis on justice. Vriska, Eridan, and Gamzee all confront one another, their ancestry highlighted to emphasize their connections going beyond into their heritage. Before anyone can start fighting, turns out Kanaya is not dead. She kicks Gamzee out of sight, destroys Eridan's wand he's been using to kill people, kills him, and then punches Vriska. She didn't die because she has a mutation in her blood which makes her a fucking vampire. Meanwhile, Jack Noir kills John's father and Rose's mother. Almost kills Jade on her quest bed, but due to Beck's connection with Jade, Beck's powers being in the sprite, and therefore in Jack Noir, he cannot kill Jade. Rose discovers that her mother and John's father were killed by Jack Noir and goes grimdark. Not gonna even explain what that is. Now determined to go fight Jack Noir out of vengeance. John has been in search of something called the tumor, instructed by Rose to find, and secretly knows that there is a bomb inside of it and intends to deliver it to the green sun to blow up and destroy. Terezi finds Vriska, who says that she is going to go and fight Jack Noir. Everyone is afraid that it will lead Jack to the troll's base, so in order to stop Vriska from doing so, Terezi tricks her and kills her. A bunch of other fucking shit goes down. Some of it being, Dave dies during Jade and Dave's fight with Jack. Rose visits Dave in a dream bubble because one of Dave's past selves died, don't worry about it, and they decide to deliver the bomb to the green sun together. Jack Noir tries to kill the frog universe. As the bomb is about to go off, the green sun, Jade, now being able to control space, creates literally the fourth wall, shrinks all the planets, Prospect, Skya, all of it, and end of Act 5.
Just to give you an idea of the sheer size of the fandom at its height, on October 25th, 2011, Cascade, the halfway point of the story, crashed Newgrounds when it was first released. And from what I understand, they tried to post it also on another website, and that website also crashed. So people really wanted to see what was going to happen in this part of the story. People were invested, and there was a lot of them. A lot of people were here to witness what was going on. So I've read up to Cascade. That is the last thing that I've read, and from what I understand, this was kind of people's favorite part of Homestuck, the first 4,000 pages, really from Hivebent to Cascade. Seems to be where it was the most popular, and it's where a lot of people's sentiments lie the most. Having a taste for that at the very least, I'm excited to kind of talk about what my thoughts were and what that looks like going forward, reading the last half of Homestuck. Homestuck has been theorized to be the beginning of a lot of fandom cultures online. The way I personally have kind of seen it, at least in retrospect, is that Homestuck to me feels like it belongs on Newgrounds, just with the art style and the types of jokes. However, I feel also like Homestuck is a little too sentimental for that crowd, a little too heartfelt at times, so it attracts the Tumblr crowd. And the thing is, I don't really feel like it fits well on Tumblr either, just with the nature of the humor and the nature of the art style. And yet, imagine these two communities' aesthetics trying to mesh together, and you get kind of a weird vibe. The fandom at its height back in 2010, 2012 was a lot of adolescents. I have some personal theories as to why that is, aside from just younger people tend to use the internet even these days, but that's why you had people acting a fool at cons, acting a fool on the internet. I would say akin to these days, Undertale. If you're familiar with Undertale in the fandom, that level of cringe, that level of vocal volatility is, from what I understand, the level that was within Homestuck. And it also seems that the two fandoms are pretty tied together. Toby Fox, the person who made Undertale, was one of the people who worked on music for Homestuck. I think they have kind of similar vibes, similar senses of humor, similar sentimentality. June 13th, 2010. What Pumpkin is created. What Pumpkin was originally a music label that Andrew Hussie would use to publish music for Homestuck, but it's now become more of a multimedia company, as they are the company that made Hiveswap, which is a video game that came out after Homestuck ended, which is a whole other controversy and drama that I'm not going to get into in this video, because what I mainly want to focus on here are my thoughts and my review on the first half of Homestuck, the first 4,000 pages. When I first started reading it, I kind of went into it with like this sociological interest to kind of see like, what is this thing that impacted the internet on such a huge level and why? And what I found intriguing in the beginning is seeing the origins for a lot of internet social norms and mores within Homestuck that I didn't even realize were Homestuck related. But then the longer I kept reading it, the more that I was invested in the story and the characters. The first 4 beta humans, the main characters, I think they're all likable. Something I think Andrew Hussie is really good at is writing likable main characters. And something I think he's really good at is writing adolescent characters as well. You have these characters that are believably 13 years old, while also some of them speaking in a more sophisticated manner than adult characters in a lot of media. And I always appreciate when authors respect adolescents and depict them in a way that's realistic and with respect and with intelligence. I appreciate that. And I wonder if that's why a lot of adolescents, 13-year-olds, kind of latched on to Homestuck, is this realistic depiction of people their age and acting their age and talking their age. Homestuck lends itself to this sort of style where you're reading the chat logs between friends, and it's not short and it's not brief. You are getting to know these characters as if listening to them speak in real time, and there's kind of like a parasocial relationship, I think, that develops with the characters and the readers, especially younger readers who find themselves latching on to these fictional characters. I think Hussie's really good at natural dialogue and letting you get to know a character just through their speaking pattern, the way that they text each other, the way that they hold out conversations. I would go into Homestuck reading it and just enjoying the ride. I wouldn't try to rush through it. Get to know the characters in a way that you wouldn't get to know them through like a TV show or a movie. I think that's something that's unique to the style of Homestuck itself. I'll say, in the recap, there was a lot of things that I did not touch on. That was literally the briefest recap I could have done. I didn't mention the exiles. I didn't mention the troll quadrants. I didn't mention Dog Scratch. There's characters that I didn't even touch on. There's story arcs I didn't touch on. There's this whole part in Homestuck that's formatted where you're literally reading 3 timelines at once. And not only that, but the way that Andrew Hussie uses the format of the page itself, it's like something I've never seen before. I didn't even notice the first time I read it that at the top of the page where the banner usually is, there was a whole storyline happening right there at one point. I had to go back and read that. Then you're watching a story happen in the pictures, and then you're reading something else in the chat log, which sounds confusing, and Homestuck is confusing, but the way that it's done is so clever in showing like how timelines can all be happening at one time at different paces, and that is something, once again, that's unique to this format, that's unique to this story of Homestuck, that in a way is revolutionary. I've never seen done before, even now, like 10 years later. Just the way that Andrew Hussie, or they, I should say, they came out as non-binary, they use they, them pronouns. The way that they use the format of what you're reading on as a story element is very fascinating. It's really cool to watch. The trolls. I enjoy reading the trolls very much, as they are a fan favorite. Something that I was speculating on while I was reading it is, like, this was the part that so many adolescents and teenagers latched onto, and I think when it comes to media that gives you, like, set roles and set personality types, adolescents are at this age where they're seeking identity, and it lends them this medium to do so, whether it's Hogwarts houses or, I don't know, whatever. My friends and I, all the time, when we give each other characters and names from different things when we were growing up, different anime, video games, and stuff, because we're using media as a way to shape our identities and to lend to the nature of our roles within our social groups, and Homestuck gives you this huge cast of characters to do that with. There are 12 trolls. That is 12 different identities, roles, characters that you can latch on to and use as a reference for constructing your own identity. And then if your friend is another troll, and then it's like you get to bounce off of that, and I think that definitely is part of the attraction of it. And not only that, but something that's enjoyable about watching them is they are 12 whole separate characters. I wouldn't say any of the trolls are similar in any way, whether it's in visual style, personality style, they even have their own ways of typing and speaking. It's all very different, and it sounds like it would be confusing to learn, but the way that Hussie introduces us to the trolls is slow because Homestuck is long, so he has plenty of time to introduce you to them. But it's in this pattern where you're introduced to maybe like 2 or 3, and then you get to know their dynamics a little bit, and then we're slowly integrated into this next group, and we learn all about these friends who are starting to play this game together, and the pace that we get to know them is unique. And you learn about the trolls and their names and their personalities relatively quickly in a way that's natural and immersive, I think. I did not get to experience Homestuck as a Flash animation. I only get to see it now as it's been archived by VIZMedia. So there are some parts where you were supposed to be able to, like, control the character and explore the room and look around and whatnot, and that has been either archived in picture format or in a video. This was okay. I didn't get to experience what it was like prior, so this is my only experience with it, and it's like I was able to follow the story beats, and that's all that really matters to me. But from what I've heard from fans who were able to interact with it previously, they much prefer the Flash animation to the way that's been archived now, which I can understand. Andrew Hussie is very good at setting up events that are about to happen, like the build-up and the confrontations and the tension, and then these scenes happen so quickly. Like, I want to see a confrontation between Gamzee and Vriska and Eridan, and then all of a sudden Kanaya comes in and just like wrecks their shit, which is funny because, keep in mind, I feel like Homestuck is primarily a comedy and low-key trolls on people or the reader by having serious story beats, but then also it's just like kind of epic. But like Kanaya just comes in and like wrecks their shit in like 2 seconds, and it's like all this build up just so that Kanaya can come in and wreck their shit. It's funny, but it's like, damn, I wish I was ready to like watch this unfold. It was gonna be epic, and then it didn't. Understanding that Homestuck is a comedy, framing it that way, and realizing that that's really primarily what it is, helps you to better be like, oh, that's why the queen and the Trolls game wouldn't wear the ring. She didn't want to be a frog. It's supposed to be funny. Whereas there are definitely people who would be like, that's so dumb, that's stupid. It's like, if you're taking Homestuck seriously, bro, like, you're the one getting trolled on. It's just a comedy. It's just supposed to be funny. Enjoy it, laugh at it, go along with it. Though, however, I say that, it's like, it asks you not to take it seriously, but then if you don't take some parts of it seriously, you're not going to be able to follow what the fuck you're reading, because some of the time gaps in the time traveling portions are so hard to follow. You have to sit down and actually, like, you have to overthink it. You have to think about it, or else you're going to be so fucking lost. It's this weird dichotomy of, like, is Andrew Hussie taking this seriously, or is this just, like, a shitpost?
It's a shitpost epic.
It's a shitpost. But some of the parts slow down enough to where it's like, oh, we're learning about, like, Vriska's, like, struggle and conflict with living in a culture where she is encouraged to kill her friends. That's a pretty interesting scene. Scenes like that are what make you really connect with the characters the most. This balance of taking it seriously and not taking it seriously, I think. Consuming Homestuck on just its surface as just a webcomic itself, like, say you just were to sit down and read Homestuck as its own thing, but you didn't go into the research of, like, what the controversies that were happening around it, the culture that was around it, the author themselves. It's like, you're only getting a portion of the Homestuck experience. You can read Homestuck and not do any research, but I think to get the overall encompassing idea of what it is, like, why do the art styles change randomly, and, like, what like, you're not going to realize there was a lot of fan involvement in it. You're not going to understand, like, the pacing in which these were posted. There are huge pauses that are named, like, the gigapause and all this bullshit that happens, and it's like, I think to best consume Homestuck is to not only read it on its surface level, but to take in everything that was a part of it. At the very least, it's interesting. And that's why I also want to talk about Andrew Hussie themselves. 100%.
Hussie, how do I answer this question? A guy who made a very long story. Andrew Hussie horse. Not a question. Don't know what the fuck to say to that.
Andrew Hussie was in their 30s when they started Homestuck, I believe. And I read this article, Polygon, where they describe him as a reluctant cult leader. And Andrew Hussie discusses their experience and their thoughts post Homestuck. And I think it's very obvious to see that they did not enjoy the height and intensity that people, were dedicated to the story. They share a lot of their thoughts on just fandom culture in general, its positives, but mostly how it creates sort of like a cult-like atmosphere and environment for people to be in. Like, they're writing this character, and whatever they do with it is going to affect this fan so intensely because of this unhealthy parasocial relationship they have with them. That kind of mentality they seem to really resent. And back in, like, 2021 or something, Andrew Hussie left What Pumpkin and officially announced that they are not doing anything with Homestuck anymore, which, like, understandable. It's been over 10 years. Like, you obviously want to work on something else, but also, I don't think that they had a great relationship with the fandom just due to how volatile it was. And unfortunately, now that will always be connected and be a part of their experience with their own creation. Andrew Hussie started a new comic called Psycholonials. Andrew Hussie finished like a year-long project, which I don't want to speak too much on right now, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to review this first part of Homestuck, part 1, then I'm going to read the second half, part 2, finish up my thoughts on Homestuck as a whole, And then I'm going to do part 3 and read Psycholonials. Because what it seems is that it was a commentary on the socio-political atmosphere in 2020. And not only that, but Hussie's, like, adamant philosophy on anti-cult. And how that was heavily affected by his experience with the Homestuck fandom. Which I think will be a good way to end kind of like this 3-parter. So I feel like there were some characters that were not explored like as much as I would have wanted to see them. Eridan played such a huge role in the climax, and like I had saw him like 1 or 2 other times prior. I feel like Hussie's really good at writing protagonists or even like anti-heroes, but all of the antagonists so far are not interesting at all. Jack Noir, I couldn't tell you why he's doing what he's doing outside of, like, you know, the joke that, like, he didn't want to wear the outfit, but, like, why is he going around killing people? Is it just, like, literally, like, a power trip? Because, like, that's not interesting at all. Like, these other characters are so dynamic and complex, and then you just have Jack Noir going around killing people. And for what? Dog Scratch is interesting. Okay, I'll give him that. That character is interesting. Give me that energy and put some of that in Jack Noir. That would be cool. He's just a force to be, like, destroyed. And I guess that's all they really needed for that part of the story. I'm not looking forward to this next villain, Lord English, because I just have not heard great things about him. Because I wasn't part of it as it was happening, I feel like I'm getting a completely different experience. I'm able to just run through this stuff. I don't have to wait for stuff to happen. I'm not having to be like, wow, I just waited 6 months for, like, this shitty panel or something. I get to see it all happen at once. And I get to see how the pacing was intended. I think that does lend to an entirely different experience, so we will see. Have you heard of Homestuck? If not, tell me what you think. Were you part of the fandom? If so, tell me what you think. What are your thoughts now? Homestuck impacted the internet, whether you realize it or not. It completely changed the culture around fandom, how people are expected to and allowed to act within a fandom, for better or for worse. Like, there's nothing you can say about Homestuck that hasn't already been said, you know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to offer this kind of, like, unique perspective because I didn't grow up on the internet. I wasn't a part of internet culture until I was an adult. And so getting kind of this experience now where it's been so long, everyone's grown up, and now I'm here entering the fandom for the first time as an adult, I guess I kind of wanted to document and offer this unique perspective. Let you see along the way what I'm learning and what my thoughts are on that. Thank you for watching.
Is Homestuck good? Homestuck is very good. Very, 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 very good. Is Homestuck bad? Homestuck is so bad. It's so extremely, very, incredibly bad. Does Homestuck get better? Well, I mean, if it hasn't gotten better, maybe it won't at this point, but there's always a chance that it could get worse. So that's something to look forward to. What is Homestuck community? That's a bunch of people who, for some crazy reason, like Homestuck a lot. Is Homestuck? Yes, it is. Homestuck is one of the most popular and widely loved animes ever created. And you can read it at homestuck.com. Is Homestuck the internet? Homestuck is absolutely the internet, and the internet is Homestuck.